Hello, welcome to episode 121 of the Epic Film Challenge, 1001 movies you must see before you die, 1994's The Shawshank Redemption. Yes, Connie had never seen this before, which I was very surprised by, and it's just one of those films you got to see, I think. Spoilers. The film is an interesting one because it's a great film, let's be honest, it's a great film. But it's consistently rated as one of the greatest films of all time. A lot of people call it the greatest film ever made, and it currently holds the top spot on IMDb as the #1 film of all time, above The Godfather. And I know a lot of people class this as their favourite film, and I can see that. I can see this being someone's favourite film of all time. It has all those key elements. It's a great story, it's got great performances, and it's told well. And it has a lot of great themes in it. Themes about freedom and isolation and how you deal with isolation, how you deal with your own freedom within yourself. It's a prison movie, and so we follow this character throughout many years as he serves time for maybe not committing this horrible crime. And the main character is played by Tim Robbins, and then we have this other character called Red, played by Morgan Freeman. I think this is the best Morgan Freeman performance by far. It's just, I know that Tim Robbins, he's the star of the show, he's the main character, but for me, Morgan Freeman is the best thing about the film, and he steals the show for me. And what was Tim Robbins' name? Andy Dufresne. He's an interesting character. Like, at times it almost seems like he had autism or something. Like, I mean, I know that he's gone through this horrible thing, he's in prison, but he's very closed off, and there's something odd about his performance. I quite like it. It's untypical in a way. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to go into the plot too much other than it's a prison movie and we follow this character. And Andy and Red, they kind of have an interesting friendship that develops throughout the film. It's basically a romance between these two friends, really. I
just gotta say something, I mean, with what he went through.
Yeah.
Like, the reason why he is in jail, that whole situation is pretty traumatizing in itself.
Yeah.
No matter how it happened, it's still, traumatizing, and so it's gonna leave you a little bit changed, and maybe enclosed or whatever you call it, and then you're in prison, and you go through some horrible shit in prison too. Of course you're gonna be a little bit like...
Yeah, I know.
So it changes you.
Yeah, I guess it was odd of me to bring that up, but when I did see him, it just sprung to my mind. He seems like like there's something not right there, but that's the way he played it, and I think it works very well. But you get to see him settle into life in the prison, and I like how it covers so many years, and you get to see the evolution of his place in the prison, and the hierarchy in the prison, all the different inmates. There's some great characters in there, some great side performances. There's an old man called Brooks, who's a highlight of the film as well. I really liked his character.
Me too.
And then even like the higher-ups, like the guards and stuff, do a brilliant job. The actors of portraying this kind of oppressive authority, and an authority that abuses its power. And so you have kind of characters to love, characters to hate. And it's 2.5 hours long almost. It's this sweeping story. It's an epic, and yeah.
I don't think it felt like 2.5 hours.
No, it's so good that you don't really feel the length. It's one of those films. Every scene, felt vital and moved the story along, and it's just a very well made film. The only thing I can kind of level against it is that it's a little ham-fisted at times. It's a little it's not a film that's setting out to show you a 100% realistic portrayal of prison life. It has that movie magic to it in certain moments where you're like, that wouldn't happen really, but the fact that it is happening is enjoyable to watch. It tells a good story, but it kind of veers a little bit to over sentimentalism at times, but I think that it's so strong that it ends up working. I think in lesser hands, maybe not as good performances, it would all fall apart like a house of cards, because it does lay it on thick a little at times, but it works for me. So, anything you'd like to chime in on? What did you think, just overall?
Obviously, it's a great movie, but I also enjoyed it a lot. I too understand why it could be someone's favorite. and why it's so highly ranked.
Yeah.
To me, it was all about Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
I
love his character, and I love the way he plays him.
Yeah, without him, I don't know. I would have still enjoyed the movie, but not to that extent.
Yeah, he's a highlight.
And
he's the absolute highlight.
he narrates the movie as well.
Yes.
And so just listening to his voice is nice, you know?
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. He narrates the story, and so it moves along well. And whenever we like transition to like years later, like it's dealt with. It's not like 3 years later, 4 years later, but just through the things that he says in the narration, you get to to slowly realize, okay, so this is a few years later and all that kind of stuff. And the narration.
You hear the year, so.
Yeah. But I mean, like it's handled well and smoothly. And his narration never feels like it's there just to be like, okay, now I need to catch you up. It feels like a character reflecting on, and that's the thing. The main character is Andy Dufresne, but it's kind of like the memories of Red, looking back on it.
It is.
Even though there are scenes which he would never have known about, so it's not completely like that. But the main framework of it is kind of this reflective thing. And yeah, so before we talk, I want to talk a little bit of spoiler talk. I mean, if you haven't seen The Shawshank, well, I guess you hadn't seen it, but I mean, I doubt there's many people who haven't seen it that are watching this video right now. But is it a film you should see before you die?
Yeah.
Yes, it's an easy yes. It's one of the great films of the 90s, I think.
I'd definitely watch it again as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's almost worthy of the praise, I think. Like it's just. I've always thought, whenever I've watched it a few times in my life, and I've always thought, man, that's a great film, but I don't get why people think it's one of the greatest films of all time. And so I've always had a little bit of a distaste for it, just because people overpraise it so much. But watching it now, and it's been many years, I just have to say, nah, I see it. I do see it. It's just a very well-made film that just has all these great moments, and yeah, so it is a film you should see before you die.
I only wish I'd seen it sooner.
Yeah, I can't believe you hadn't.
No, I have no idea why I haven't seen it until now. But then again, maybe I wasn't supposed to, because there have been movies that I've seen earlier, which I've seen too soon in my life, and I didn't like them, even though they were great movies. And I watch them again now, and I love them. And so I feel like watching it now for the first time, I appreciate it as much as I should for the first time. But then again, I wish that I would have been one of those people who actually saw it in the 90s.
Let's just talk about some spoilers briefly. Because I don't want to spoil the ending for anyone. But the ending, of course, we see that for presumably 19 years, Andy had been tunneling through the wall of his cell with this little thing. And it's a great reveal. When it finally comes, and he's hiding it with the poster, and that's where I start to feel like, there's no way he would have gotten away with that. There's no way they wouldn't have say, hey, let's have a look behind it. Do you know what I mean? And then when he's gone, and they're like, where is he? And they're looking around. You're telling me they wouldn't just rip the poster? I mean, it just feels it, and then it's a bit too neat when the warden is like, oh, it's all of you, and he starts throwing rocks, and it's her, and he throws her, and it's just a bit too heavy-handed.
I actually thought about it the second he picked up those rocks. I was thinking, he's going to throw it at the poster, and there's going to be a hole behind it.
If he just had a little fit and gone, just thrown it everywhere, and one of them went through, but when he's like, oh, yeah, it's her fault, and threw it, but it does make for a great moment when he puts his hand through the poster, and it goes through, and then the reveal. That's a great moment. But I did feel like, and then, of course, just the...
I gotta say something that I was thinking. Like, this guy, this warden, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Is very Christian, and he knows the Bible by heart, more or less.
Yeah.
If he knows the Bible by heart, he also knows the weight of the Bible. Okay? He would feel that there would be something in it, something was off. So that kind of bugs me, because he kept the pick thingy in the Bible. And all the pages that he's been cutting through to fit it so nicely, he would need a knife for that.
Yeah.
But still don't weigh as much as that.
Yeah. Anyway, and there's lots of things in the film like that you can pick apart, but it ultimately doesn't matter. I just wanted to throw that out there because it did stand out to me. But the ending, we see.
I thought that fitted nicely. I mean, and the way he just stayed so like he didn't react when he was like, because he was looking, he wanted to take that poster down, but he kept it there, And they didn't even look behind the poster when they were going through the room. That just seems off to me. Even,
yeah.
Especially since the warden keeps the safe behind his picture, you know?
Yeah, but the point is, these things don't really matter when everything else is working so much. And it is such a great, you know, it's a moment that wouldn't really happen. I mean, I think I read somewhere that someone almost escaped a prison in the same way, inspired by the movie or something. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it's a great ending, and it's a movie ending where Andy and Red get to be together again at the end. And the original novella by Stephen King ended on a more ambiguous note. You weren't sure whether Red would actually go and find Andy, and even the director Frank Darabont, he didn't want to shoot an ending where they, you know, were reunited, but the studio were like, we need that ending of them reuniting. So Darabont went, okay, I'll do that, but I'll have their reunion shot from afar. So the last shot of the film is this, you know, this like helicopter shot moving back, and you barely see them run up and hug each other, but you're not that involved in it, and so that was kind of his compromise. But it's just one of those sweet endings that's just really nice to watch. You know, it's a feel-good ending to a feel-good film in a lot of ways, because Andy goes through a lot of shit, but he has those great moments, like the scene when he plays the music and he just doesn't give a fuck, and he's just like, I'm just going to enjoy this moment, and I'm going to get in as much trouble as possible, but I'm going to enjoy these few minutes of listening to this music and giving the gift of that to everyone else. It's a really cool moment, and seeing him progress in the prison, getting the library up, it's a great story. Great story. Anything else you can add, really? No, it's a great film.
Yeah.
Definitely one to see before you die. And definitely one of the best films in the 90s, I think. And, and I'm glad that I went back to it, because that distaste I've always had for it was pretty much washed away with this film. With this viewing, I mean, when we watched it last night, I kind of was like, yeah, I see it now. I do see it. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you with the next one.